Hi everyone, I'm Jim Dean and I'm here to share with you how to find and use some free online Bible study tools. There are going to be two that I'm talking about. I'll make two separate videos for them. The one I'm starting with right now is BibleGateway.com. This is a tool that I'm going to show you all the free online features. Um, it does not have, as far as I know, an app that goes on your PC or your phone. You have to use a browser for that. They do have the option of signing up and getting some extra features for a monthly or annual fee. I do not do that. I do not sign up for that. I have all those features available in other forms, but I still think that the free version is excellent for certain purposes. So first, let's get started. You need to open up your browser. Of course, the browser, might have tabs on the top like that, but we're just trying to maximize the screen space here. So what you do is you go to your search field and get rid of whatever's there, and you type in www.biblegateway.com. Now you don't need to have any capital letters. There are no spaces in that. Hit enter and it will jump to this screen, which looks a little different than what we were just looking at. This is the opening screen, and if you get here once and you go someplace, go to some portion of the Bible, then I'm pretty sure that the next time you come back to it, even if you shut down your browser and turn off your machine, I'm pretty sure it will come back to the same place that you last left off. But in any case, if we want to go, let's say we want to go to Acts chapter 1 in the Bible. Now there are two ways we can do that in Bible Gateway. One is we can start typing A for Acts, and notice that here's Acts, here's Amos, and then Abraham. Well, there's no book in the Bible named Abraham, but there's an awful lot in the Bible about Abraham. And of course here we've got anger. Well, obviously this is not just books of the Bible. So it's possible that I can type in a word like anger, and it will show me verses that has to do with that particular word. So if I press the search button and I come down here, you'll see that I've got a bunch of verses that have anger in them. It's quite a long list, as you can imagine. And if you want to, you can just see the books in Job that have to do with anger. So here's the verses in Job. And so they've got all kinds of other nifty features here, like you can see it in context. So if there's a paragraph or something around this that helps you understand it better, you type the in context, and it'll show you the verses that have to do with that, that provide a contextual basis for it. So anyhow, I don't use that feature in this site very often, but you can see it is very powerful. The alternative is to go to something like Strong's Concordance, which would be a much more time-consuming way of doing it on paper. So now, this word anger is not just a word that's used in the Bible, in the New English Mint translation. Oh, I should have mentioned that. If I wanted to use a different translation, I could pick the New Century Version, and which I'm not recommending this particularly. It just happens to be handy. And see, it changes it to the New Century Version and so forth. Now, if I wanted to, I could type topical, and it's going to look up this word anger in a topical resource that has a list of Bible verses that they may use the word anger, but it's talking about the idea of anger. And sometimes there will be subsets of what kind of aspect of anger there is. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. That's not really what I wanted to show you today. What I wanted to show you was how to read the Bible, which is pretty important. So we type in A, and if I type in one more letter, C, then it narrows this down a little bit. See, now I've got Acts, and now I've only got words that begin with AC. And if I go to T, then there's just one choice. But I can just type it out instead of having all that other stuff I do. Now, here's Acts chapter 1, and it's not actually changed anything down here until I hit this little button over here. Okay, so also I could hit the enter key, which is what I just did, but I can also click on that button, and it actually goes to the place that you've typed in. See, there's the book of Acts right there. And if we wanted to we read through the book of Acts chapter 1, and if we want to go back and see what John 21 had to say, I click here. If I want to move on to Acts chapter 2, I click there, and it brings up Acts chapter 2. And of course, we can go down to the bottom of that in Acts chapter 3 and so forth. So that's how you navigate. That you type in the chapter. If I typed in the verse, like Acts chapter 2, verse 21, it will take me to that verse, but I can't see the context. Okay. So in any case, I normally recommend just doing the entire chapter so you can see the context in an easy fashion. And I normally use this just for simple reading through the Bible as opposed to in-depth study. Now, there's another way to get to Acts chapter 1, and that is to use the Bible book list. So let me make a little more room here. Okay, the Bible book list is this pop-up, and my screen is too small for you to see the whole thing, but basically it's a list of the Old Testament books and the New Testament books here. And you can see if I select a book like 1 Corinthians or Mark or something like that, or here Deuteronomy, you can't see what it says, but it's actually over there. Your browser would be open a little bit more than mine is. So in any case, if we go to book of Acts, then we have all the chapters in the book of Acts listed here with a little heading that explains to us what's going on in that chapter. If we don't remember exactly where in Acts we want to go, then these little summaries will help us to remember that and go to the right place. So if I select Acts chapter 1, again we get back to where we've been before. And the only other thing here that you might want to do, which is one of the very powerful features of Bible Gateway, in fact I think more powerful than any other online service, certainly any other online free service, is you can change the translation. There are more translations available in this website than any other website I know of. There could be some others. The last two that you can't see right now, they're on the bottom of the page, are Wycliffe Bible and Young's Literal Translation. So anyhow, it's quite a long list. And not all of these translations are ones that I would recommend for regular study, but they all are the Bible. And we've all got, as Christians, we've all got the Holy Spirit living within us to help teach us and guide us in the Word and in truth. So, go for it. I'll put in a couple of plugs here. There are a few Bibles I would highly recommend for accuracy, reliability of the translation. Probably the first one, the top one by a small margin, is the New American Standard Bible. Now, there have been many editions of this. The first edition was in 1971, then there was one in 1977, and then a very, very well-known one and widely used one in 1995. A lot of seminaries and so forth use this. And then a very recent one, 2020 edition, has had a few changes since 95. I'm not going to go into that now, but either one of these are excellent translations. So the New American Standard Bible, 1995, or the most recent 2020 edition are excellent. Good word-for-word, formal equivalence translations. Then I guess the next one I would recommend would be the New King James version, NKJV. If you hear any little squeaks in the background, that's Speedy squeaking his little toy. Anyway, the New King James Version is based on the same Greek and Hebrew texts that the King James Version, the authorized version, was used originally, but the translation language has been brought up to date. So it's no longer from the 1600s, but it's from the 19th, 20th century. The 20th century. This was translated originally in, the late 70s, I think. But in any case, it's a wonderful translation. It retains a lot of the flow and beautiful poetic style that the King James has, but you don't run into words that don't have the same meaning nowadays. Quick example of that in Ephesians 2:1 in the King James it says, "And you hath he quickened who were dead in trespasses and sins." The New King James says, "And you he has made alive who were dead in trespasses and sins." So the word quickened in modern day English means to make run faster. Well, in King James time, it meant to make alive. So this makes that clear. But and also they're wonderful translators' notes. Anyway, I've spent too much time on that. Okay. Then let's see. The English Standard Version is widely used nowadays, and I highly recommend it. It's not quite as word for word precise as the other two I mentioned, but it is a formal equivalence translation. It is accurate in what they're saying, and it's used very widely. It's very easy to read. And the other one that many of you may not have heard of is the New English Translation. Where is it? New English, the Net Bible. This was the translation for the Net Bible started in the late 90s, early 2000s, as I recall, and it was all done online. There were many, many scholars and comments from people all around the world who contributed to this. And the thing that this thing majors in, it's a good translation. It's different than a lot of the others because they basically have gone in and taken everything apart and put it back together again in terms of the original languages and parsing it and taking everyone's ideas and viewpoints into account. So if you get a hold of the printed version of this or a full copy with notes of the electronic version, there are tens or hundreds of thousands of notes about the translation. So if you like that stuff, if you like knowing, well, what is the Greek, what is the Hebrew behind this, and why do they choose this phrase or this word or that word, the Net Bible is excellent. And since we'll probably be using that in our 2024 Read Through the Bible group, I'll probably use that as my example moving forward here. So I selected that Bible. It still says this one down here because I haven't pressed this yet. As soon as I click that, the New English Translation comes out, and here we are looking at Acts chapter 1 in the New English Translation. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, so now let's see some of the other things we can do. Right now, we're looking at this. We see this heading here, and we see the text, and it just sort of looks like a paragraph-style Bible. Well, if I want to, I can turn off the verse numbers so it just reads like a regular book. Okay? Or I can also, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Okay, I can turn off the headings and it reads even more like a regular book. So there's no headings amongst the different areas. Excuse me, turn it back on. Each one of these sections that has a heading is known as a pericope. It's a general thought that's being presented, and then a new thought begins or a new story begins, and that warrants a new heading. So different Bibles have the pericopes in different places. They're not part of the original. This was not written in the Greek, okay, but it's something the translators have added, mainly to help you find things quickly if you're just sort of leafing through the Bible. But another advantage is it sort of gives you a quick overview before you read the passage of what's the passage about. And so it's a contextual assistance. Let's see, so I can go back. Let me turn the verse numbers back on. I can make it red letter also if I want. This would, whoops, if the Bible permits it. The New English Translation doesn't. The Bible permits red letter for things like the New King James and so forth. But I don't use it, so I don't care. Okay, so we've got these two other choices, cross-references and footnotes. So let's turn them both on. And you see I've got a little A here, and it says see footnote A. And I click on that, and it says the translation for wrote could be translated produced, and the actual literal translation of the Greek word is made. So the produced would be in context. The made would be literal, since it's from the Greek. So we've got a whole bunch of these things. Now, usually, most translations do not have this many of these footnotes because the New English Translation majors on it. Okay, so let's switch this to, definitely don't want the New Internet, don't want the Reader's Version. Okay, let's switch this to the New King James. There we go. Okay, now I think we can demonstrate, oops, went a little too far there. I think we can demonstrate the red letter. Let's see. Yes, there we go. So here's the places where Jesus is speaking are in red letters. And of course, in the original Greek, there was no red letters. So this is added by the translators to help you see things if you like them. So anyhow, we've got cross-references turned on and footnotes turned on here. And you'll see here we've got both of them occurring. This one here is a cross-reference, see cross-reference. If I click on it, it shows me the cross-reference is Luke 1:3, and then it shows me what Luke 1:3 says, at least the first part of it. Now, if I wanted to, I could click on this, and it would jump to Luke 1:3, but I don't really want to chase the rabbit quite down that far down the hole. So this is a very handy cross-reference tool. And then the other one, see, that's a capital letter. That's for cross-reference. This one, the little a, is for a footnote. So the footnote was, until the day which he is taken up, footnote says, he ascended into heaven. That was what the people who did the translation added as a footnote. Infallible could be translated unmistakable, and so forth. So the footnotes and the cross-references are handy. I would say that for reading along, the cross-references, well, they're useful as long as you don't jump. As long as you just look and see what this says, and just serve as a little reminder. But as soon as you jump here, if I click on that, then it jumps all the way over to that other verse and shows you the footnotes and all that. And now where am I? Okay, now I can get back to where I was by clicking my little backup arrow, but you may not want to do that. So normally when I use this website, I have this turned off, I have that turned off, and I have the verse numbers and I have the headings, just so I can read along like this and get the benefit of having it online. Okay, so let's see, I've shown you those things. Oh, I don't want to forget. Well, no, let's see. Let's do this first. Okay, you can take this chapter that you're viewing right now in that version, and you can share a copy of it on Twitter, Facebook, or email. Well, I'm not on Twitter, but you can save it to either one. And I'm pretty sure that when you share it, it does provide credits at the bottom to say, okay, this is such and such a version, copyright so-and-so. So it respects the copyright. Okay, if you want to, you can print it. Now, clicking this button does not print it. Clicking this button reformats the page without all the gobbledygook up here, and then you go to your browser, and you go down in the browser to the print, and you click on this and select your printer and so forth, and it prints that cleaned up page. So that's the purpose of the little print button there. We've already seen the settings buttons. Some of the translations, like the New King James Version, have an audio capability. So if I click on this button,
The Acts of the Apostles,
it has
Chapter 1.
Someone reading
The former
that
account I
translation,
made
that
of
chapter.
Theophilus, of
This
all that
person
Jesus began
is
both to
Simon
do
Bubb,
and teach,
who's reading it.
until the
And
day in
you
which
can
he was
have
taken
all
up,
kinds of different
after he,
translations
through
here.
the Holy
There are a lot of
Spirit,
them
had given
that have an
commandments to the
audio
apostles
version
whom he had chosen,
that you can do. So if
to
we
whom
wanted to
he
jump
also
to
presented
the
himself
NSB
alive
95 by Dale McConaughey,
The New American Standard
he's
Bible.
reading Acts
Copyright
chapter
by
1.
the Lockman
And if I want to
Foundation.
jump to Acts chapter 10, I can do that.
Chapter 10.
So,
Now there
any
was
of
a
you
man
who
in
have trouble
Caesarea
reading
named
the
Cornelius,
print,
a
you
centurion
can
of
do
what was
this
called the
online
Italian cohort.
and actually hear a human being, not a robot, reading it. So, if some of you do have trouble reading larger fonts, different sizes, this is the extra large. This is the largest size font you'll be able to see. Now, of course, on your device, you can maximize the window, it'll look a little bit larger, or it may be on an iPhone, it might be a lot smaller. I can't imagine anyone wanting to use that size, the extra small, but I suppose if you have really good vision and you just want to squish everything on the page in a small space, you can. Here's medium, and it's not too complicated. I think you can figure that out. Okay, there are other resources available. I'm pretty sure that most of these resources they have down here, which used to be completely free with Bible Gateway, I think they're part of the trial package. So I don't recommend spending that money, but you may want to if you've got no other tools available to you in your library. This might be a worthwhile thing to spend a couple bucks a month to subscribe to. Okay, if you click on the Hebrew and Greek, this website has a very limited capability, and again, I'm pretty sure this ties to the paid-for subscription. It says this option is free in some passages in the NIV, but in my opinion, the original language tools of Bible Gateway are very rudimentary, so I would not recommend using that for that. I have another video I'm doing of the Blue Letter Bible, and that is really, really good for original language. Now, your content's sort of interesting. Your content, you can highlight a verse and start making notes. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? And I'm pretty sure I don't do that in this particular tool, but I'm pretty sure that if I had made notes, they'd show up here when I go to your content. So let's go back to the passage and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, so if you go, this is in any translation, you go down here, regardless of what you've got turned on for the page options, okay, you can highlight something. So let's say I wanted to highlight mentions of God. Well, what I might do is I just highlight the Holy Spirit there, and as soon as I let go, selecting that, I have the option of picking one of 4 colors. So let's say I wanted to use gold for God. Then I can click on that. Whoops. Okay, it won't let me do it unless I log in. So I'm not going to do that right now, but I'm pretty sure you can log in without having to pay for anything. So anyhow, it let me do the highlighting, and I'm pretty sure, let me see if I highlight it again, and I click on this over here, that's the little notes icon, then I can type in it. Here's my note. Now, since I'm not logged in, it may well be that after I get done with this session, it'll get lost. Let me see if I save it. Yeah, see, it wants me to log in, and that makes sense, because how would it keep track of whose notes were whose? Okay, so now let's say you've got this noted here, and you want to cancel that, and I want to delete it. That's how I delete it. I just clicked on that little symbol you saw there, and if I want to get rid of that highlight, I just select it again, and I click this little X'd out color right here. And then finally, if I wanted to say, oh, I want to take this phrase here, and I wanted to email it, or Facebook it, or Twitter it, then I can use the share button here. And if I wanted to, let's say I want to take this right here, and I click the little star button, then again, it's a way of marking the verse, but it wants me to sign in. So there's the star that I added, but it's not going to remember it, I don't think, unless I log in. So I click the star, it goes away again, and that's that. So it's really nice. You have 4 colors you can use to highlight in, which is not a lot, but it's enough. If you do use the colors, let me suggest some uses for the colors. G is good for God. Gold is good for God. I also might use this for wisdom or something of that nature. Then the red reminds me of blood, okay? But it also reminds me of sin. So I might use this for salvation. I might use it for sin, or sin or evil, depending on what the other colors are. You'll see in the different Bibles, they're different, or excuse me, in their different websites, there are different colors available. Blue to me is blessings, like the sky, like heaven. So blessings could also encompass verses about salvation. And green for me is about growth, about things that the Bible commands me not to do, the things that I should do, the examples in the Bible of the things to do and not to do or whatever. Again, some things not to do might be sin. Depends on how you want to use the colors. So whatever you do with the colors, if you choose to use this tool, these 4 colors, you might want to jot it down, what the meanings are, and try to relate, if you would, the colors to something like green for growth, or blue for sky, or red for blood, or gold for God, for gold, so that it makes it easy to do. But boy, I'll tell you, if you start highlighting things in your Bible, and you can highlight whole phrases, individual words, entire verses, it will really help you slow down a little bit as you read, which I highly encourage. And also it means when you come back to that passage later on, maybe just jumping around or maybe actually reading through it again, you'll be reminded of those themes, those ideas, being what that verse or those words are talking about. But again, to do that, you need to sign in, log in, so that it saves that information for you. Okay, let's see. I think I've gone through everything here. I hope this has been really helpful for you. I talked through the different translations. Yes, I did. And I showed you how to get to BibleGateway.com. Oh, let me show you one more thing. If you are in Windows browser, I'm pretty sure that the MacBooks have this as well. The browser usually has a little symbol over here in the place where you typed in the reference to BibleGateway.com. And it's, in this case, it's a star. If you click on that star, it offers to add this to your favorites list. And you can type whatever you want here. I could type in Bible Gateway NKJV and Acts 1, which is sort of what it said in the first place, but you can type whatever you want. You can save it to different favorites or folders that you might have. And if I click Done, then if I go and look at the list here, let me see, list, apps, games, favorites, there we go. So if I click that, Control-Shift-O, it gives me a list of all the things I've saved that I jump to for different purposes and so forth. And the one I just saved is probably on the bottom here, Bible Gateway NKJV Acts 1. If I click on that, it brings me back to the same place I started. So that's a nice little thing. If you don't want to have to type this out every time, you can just save it to the favorites bar on your computer. Okay, well, I hope that's been helpful to you, and it will encourage you in your reading and study of the Word of God.